We're really excited to have you. As you know, Jim is essentially the leader of CRPS in the nation, is really kind of the way to think of it. And as we were investigating and looking into how to best treat Nell because of the rare cranial that she has, he was gracious enough to reach back out to us, and we was able to talk with him, and even more fun to collaborate here with you. One of the things that I wanted to mention is as people are finding connections and they're finding people on various platforms and things. There's obviously a lot of people to be credited, but there's two people that I just wanted to kind of call out, and that you and Penny Cohen, for example, we're talking about 20 plus year veterans, you guys, that have been working to achieve so much of what we're all trying to do in terms of increasing awareness, helping people feel less isolated. Penny Cohen, if you're not sure who she is, she was the founder and owner of American Chronic Pain Association. We've also had conversation with her. She's recently retired, but kudos goes out to both of you.
Absolutely.
So
a sincere thank you.
Another great advocate too, her name is Sue Pinkham, and she's in charge of the Coalition Against Pediatric Pain. Because so often we talk about adults with chronic pain, but there's so many children and teens with chronic pain too.
So true. I'm glad that you brought that up.
Glad
that you brought that up. That's important. So if any of you have parents that have children with pain, please make sure to just give them any information that you might be able to, or just point them in the direction of us or Jim or American Chronic Pain Association, something. We want to make sure our children are taken care of.
The Coalition Against Pediatric Pain, what they do really uniquely is that when they're put in touch with a young person with chronic pain, just like the Ferocious Spiders is another organization, they send out a care package.
That's sweet.
It's marvelous, that someone cares and knows that they're suffering.
Yes, that is a big deal, especially for the younger you are, the harder it is to understand, I think, and grasp. Even though they're so resilient, those care packages are very, very important. I would actually like to reach out to them ourselves, I think, and see what we can do to help.
We put up, we have a woman, Jeannie Quackenbush in North Carolina, and to keep her hands free and functioning, she does hugs for us. And so sometimes when someone gets in touch with us and they're having a hard life, we'll send them on a hug. So anyone who wants a hug sent to them, just get in touch with me. And just my email was info at RSDS.org, and would love to send it to you or a loved one.
Yep, we got a beautiful package from you guys, and I think that's who you're talking about. And just beautiful work, and it is exactly that. It is hugs from people that really, really care. And it matters, and it helps you. It reminds you that you matter, and people are doing a whole lot behind the scenes. And sometimes we forget. Yeah, you are not alone.
And one of the things I also wanted to say is that over that 20 plus years, even back when you guys were starting, people have been trying to find leaders that are representing them and that care and things. And of course, as I can't imagine what you guys have gone through in terms of pioneering, you haven't probably always been in a position where you've been able to reach out like you would have liked to and connect with every, with the advancements of social media and collaborations like this, more and more people kind of coming together and not only finding peers and people that are going through things, but hopefully people that they're feeling is representing them in some way, and that there are people out there that are trying to reach back. And so, forgive us all you guys, those that are watching this, in terms of, you know, any falling short, if you felt like that somebody wasn't able to reach you or get back to you or whatever. There's, you know, with 3.5 billion people in the world with chronic pain, and with you know, some of which we're going to be getting into in terms of, there's some things that are kind of, you know, not the most advantageous in terms of research and different things. We all are aware that it's not only a difficult conversation that sometimes people are having, but there's some challenges that have maybe been part of why you haven't maybe felt like someone does really genuinely reach out and give a hug. And so forgive us. Just know that I know that all the efforts, no matter what the experience has had, I know several people, I know many people know you, Jim, before we even, you know, met your organization and others. And for whatever you have or haven't been able to go through or experience or whatever, hopefully that can kind of put things in context in terms of the daunting realities that we're kind of facing, and hope that you can find some things that we're all trying to do for you in sincerity, and forgive us of our shortcomings.
And now you're so connected, but if you become chronically ill in a man, so often there's a digital divide. You lose your work and maybe access to the internet. You're sentenced to a life on Social Security disability if you don't get better. And so there's a lot of people out there that are connected.
Right.
And they're just isolated, perhaps even bedbound.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That is that's a challenge.
Yeah.
You know, obviously I'm extremely blessed to have not just Rex, but our children who have always just limitless in their love and service, and you know, our families, and even, you know, friends, and, you know, I have that, and you're still going to walk a very isolated road. But there are those that are isolated, like Jim's saying, beyond belief, beyond their illness. And it really, and some of us, you know, that disability isn't even an option.
Yeah.
So I have, for myself, I have no option for that. I'll never, they've made that clear, I'll never receive that. And so that's, you know, that's disheartening when it's not cheap to be ill. So,
there's so many things not covered by your insurance. And
right.
Rex, do you have insurance?
Yes. Yeah, I've got great insurance, but
they just don't like CRPS.
Yeah, whether it's ketamine and, you know, infusions, or whether it is, you know, other things. That's part of kind of what I'm talking about, is that as a whole throughout the world, what I've said in past interviews, I just simplify it in that our relationship with pain has to change. Our conversation about it, what we're investing in it, the people that we're including, the stigmas that need to be broken down. And as we collectively come together in that cause, I know that it can really improve in the years to come. And 2 years ago, before we even had our first interview, I remember feeling like I didn't know anybody that was going through what Nell and I was going through.
I think it was just 1 year ago, last year we started.
No, it'll be 2 years in March.
He'll trust him, because my time goes.
Yeah, our first interview was March 2021. So coming in March, we're actually been.
So is that? Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Year and a half.
Yeah.
CRPS is an invisible disability.
Yeah.
You know,
exactly.
Often nominated disease, and so often they say you can't be in pain, you look good, and you just say, "Oh, one thing, treat me."
Yeah.
It's funny. I'll say this because, I was going to bring this up just in case you guys see me look like I'm drifting off or I'm not listening. I'm very much in pain, and under my makeup, I'm on fire.
Yeah.
So
She
I'm
was
here. I'm shaky.
this morning. She, my heart goes out to her because the fact that she's here, of course, although, my friend, you're really important, right? She really goes out of her way to make sure that that every single, one of you is important. She's not able to be at all of the lives, and she hates that. Now, of course, here she is. You guys, look how beautiful she looks. Look, what you talk about, invisible illness, but the behind the scenes that went on, and her waking up and not knowing if, with all of the investment of having you here, whether she was even going to be able to do it, and some of the anxiety and concern about that, and the family kind of rallying together with getting things set up. A lot of things go on behind the scenes, and then boom, we get blessed and she's here with us. But boy, just know, we know that those kinds of stories are happening all over the place, and sometimes that confuses family and friends, because when they show up, they're like, what's the problem? I don't understand why you're in bed, or I don't understand what you're going through. But just, you got to believe us, you got to believe that people are not just avoiding the world on purpose. They are trying to just get through moment
and
by
honestly, I'll say this, and really I'd like, Jim, for you to just really spend some time just on what you feel is important, that those that are on, welcome everyone. I can see you coming in, and I can't see far enough to read the comments. But
we got like 5 phones around here, so
yeah.
so
But thank you for being
in.
here.
Thanks for joining, you guys. This means a lot to all of us.
When I'm able to go out, very rarely, whether it's with our little family, our kids, or I haven't gone to my parents' house. They live only 2 hours away, for well over a year. And part of that is because it hurts to see your loved ones in pain. Watching you in pain.
Now, do your parents understand?
They yeah, absolutely. I think, well, you know what? I can't answer completely on what my family understands about what I go through, and it's been progressing pretty good over the past 2 months. But when I'm around them, I will do everything in my power to hide my pain. And because mine starts in my head, I rarely cry because it hurts. It's an immediate, painful, and for a tear to come through, that is sometimes agonizing. And the facial muscles and smiling and laughing and all of that makes a big difference. So, and then that can trigger just so much else in my body, and fevers, and then it's triggering your intestines, and it's triggering your adrenals, and it's triggering, and so
all the comorbidities.
Yes, so many of us will do, because we love, and that's what we don't want. That's what we're hanging on to, our loved ones and the life that we had, and we're not trying to fool anyone. We're just trying to, I think, for me, mostly make it easier on those I love. If I were to take the makeup off right now, you'd see a little bit of swelling, and I don't know how many shades red. Often I go to all my appointments without makeup, so they can make sure they can see, and even doctors have been in so much shock that they've kind of stopped in their tracks and asked if they could take pictures. And it's a CRPS, there's a reason it starts out with complex. And it's a brutal diagnosis, but just know that when we're smiling, and sometimes we just need to smile and laugh for ourselves and have hope and have faith. So
Yeah, when at RSD, we would say it
Yes.
really needs rare disease.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
But that's enough of that. I'm.
Yeah, and I love having an opportunity when we interview people to kind of pause for a bit and give you an opportunity to, you know, share a little bit of your background, however far back you want to go. You know, where you originally from? Where, you know, how'd you get into being you know, someone that was helping with pain, and then specifically with CRPS. And so I just want to kind of turn that time over to you a little bit, and
Then we'll do questions.
Yeah. And
if you're okay with that, Jim, do questions after.
Yeah, and as we go, I'll have questions that will kind of help a little bit with the conversation. But yeah, to her point, at a certain point, we'll break into question and answer, and our daughter will be reading some questions for you, so people are really looking forward to that part of the segment as well.
So I am the 7th decade of my life. I have I've been truly blessed. I actually was a Marine in Vietnam, and came back in a GI Bill, and I went to the University of Connecticut, and I took an education degree, graduated with that. And my wife and I then became dorm at a school for children at the time. This is in the 80s for children. Instead of mainstreaming one, if you were not fitting into the mold, they would take you out and they would pay for your educated. So, and it was the school. I actually was hired because I was Marine, and the fellow who started it was a Marine. Okay. And I had asked on my resume, talked about being a market clerk, and he also had been one. He said, "This looks like me." Yeah. So it was a beautiful locale in East Haddam, Connecticut, right above the Connecticut River.
Wow.
Conservancy calls that part of Connecticut one of the last great places in the world. Yeah. And they're just gorgeous. And we did I canoed the entire Connecticut River.
Wow.
That's amazing.
With the teams.
That is amazing.
I had to take all summer. And then in here, we took them canoeing in the Everglades. It was just fabulous. And we helped a lot of people, and then 2 children were born at that school. And then I was a little upset with the nation, and Christian social workers said, "Well, listen, why don't you go get your master's in school?" And I was lucky enough to do it, and I got, and then I started working on youth service to try to keep kids out of the criminal system, and then lucky enough to start working for the YMCA. And the YMCA covered everything from keeping it clean, to doing the newsletter, fundraising, staffing, ever. And that was for about 5 years. And when I became the director of the Obsessive Compulsive Foundation. And the beautiful thing is it was headquartered in Milford, Connecticut, my town. And I did that for about 5 years, and I had a falling out with my board of directors at that time. And I was on the National Organization for Disorders. I was the board, and Abby Myers, who founded that organization. If people are not familiar with National Organization of Rare Disorders, there's 7,000 rare disorders, and they are. And so when organizations, national organizations look for an exec, they don't have the money to do a national search. And they called up Abby and said, "I have the guy for you." That was like 22 years ago, I heard by this organization. Time I didn't CRPS was, Dr. Bull went on it. I was lucky enough to be friends with the executive director of American RSD Hope, Keith Dean. And he kind of mentored me, and then I was looking at that RSDSA has a full scientific board of directors, a committed board of directors, and you learn. And there's only probably 10 to 15, I think, thought leaders in the CRPS treatment field, and you talk and you listen to them.
Really.
And you go on PubMed. So I was brought into this organization. They said to you may retire from this organization and work as long as you can, and God willing, I'd love to. I'm learning it, and I'd love to come to this and try to help.
We're so blessed because you do. We easily talk highly about you after one, we were able to meet Jim. Jim, not so much me that day. I was in bed and just down, but we got to talk. But it's you're just amazing. We think so highly of you. We think highly of what you're doing. Thank you.
I'm telling you just personally that I have 4 sons, and what really changed my whole perspective on them was our son died at 25.
Wow.
We survived it. We had a very empathetic niece that really walked us, and then we knew, and it made me so empathetic to others, so many different types of pain in this world, and it eventually made me a better. And one big thing that we did as we were in the process, we went up to God. All the kids were there, and we're playing wiffle ball. And we started a wiffle ball tournament to raise money for a scholarship in our son's name. And each year we give a $2,000 scholarship to a child who is going to college in Connecticut.
That's amazing.
Keeps them alive in our hearts.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
some tragedy into.
No, yeah, sorry for your loss.
Yeah.
You said he passed away at 25.
Yeah, he went out to visit his brother in California. He was out with his soulmate, and he was tremendous. And what we discovered after he died, that he had undiagnosed hypertension. He didn't have insurance, and when you're young, you think you're invisible. Yeah. And he had a stroke. They couldn't bring him back.
Oh no!
It's so. Oh man, it breaks my heart to think and how ironic it is that all the pain conditions in itself are enough to cause the whole world to pause, right, and change that relationship with it, like I was saying. But CRPS, among pain conditions, as people know that or otherwise, the suicide disease and the level of the pain. If that is either the or one of the most painful things that any of us can go through, you would think that there would be volumes of money and leaders and people all investing in the most painful thing in the world. So it's been so sobering for me to, among the sweet moments, like connecting with all of you on social media, and you guys expressing your love for Nell's story and what we go through, and us being able to share your stories, but meeting, as we're looking for people out there that are kind of representing at levels that we don't fully appreciate, right? Because we're at the beginning of it. It's still kind of a little mind-boggling that
we're at the beginning of
the beginning of my finding out, right? Trying to find the pain management companies in all of Utah, for example, right?
Yeah.
You go and talk with some of them, and they don't have any knowledge about where to maybe get ketamine infusion, or whatever. I'm just saying that with something that's that important in terms of that everybody wants to be able to have their pain addressed, to have that be something that's been grossly
or I would even say,
what I mean?
Just because I was diagnosed with CRPS a few years ago now, but we know now that was longer. They just didn't catch it. But what happened for me was I personally have detoxed, even walked myself into a hospital and detoxed. I think I mentioned this to you, Jim, when we talked, but just to get back to that base level. I like to know what my body's doing on its own without, and then, but it's really hard when you do that. And I'll say this has been a trial for me. When you do that, all of a sudden everyone's proud of you. Your family, the doctors, everyone. My doctor even teared up. And then they're not all of a sudden when you say, so my pain's not going away and I need something, So I've been called a drug seeker and kicked out on our first appointment in a pain management, and in 2 other pain management places. They were so eager to do procedures knowing I had CRPS at that point, but I don't think they understood if you're not extremely careful, you create new injuries, which is what happened. Mm-hmm. And after those procedures, that's when I told Rex, especially when they hit my ganglion nerve bundle, and he said, I'm going to hit it really extra hard because I was flaring up both arms, my face. And when I came out of that, which he'd never experienced, it was emergency on every level. And I know this may sound really dramatic, but after the days of I was hard to breathe. I felt like I was going to have a heart attack. I didn't know whether to lay, to kneel, to sit, and they were frantically trying to just make a medication at the compound pharmacy, and the doctor was like, this has never happened, I don't know what. So he was frazzled, and then finally when my body settled down after hours and hours, my body was jerking, which it does now. It's kind of like a really slow seizure type thing when it gets overwhelmed. But I told Rex, I know, just going off of my experience, I feel like you can just die, like your body can just give out from too much pain. There was just so many moments that I was just, this is it. I can't take a breath because it hurt to breathe. It hurt, Mm-hmm. I mean, so when that, for many of you that you don't know, he was trying to numb, really, really hit this big nerve bundle. And what it did is all my nerves in my head, and that means every nerve to every tooth and every nerve, they get really angry. And even after I go to ketamine, it will do that. When I come out of it, it just is 10 times worse. And it was every nerve just on the left side, but it was every tooth, if you can imagine every tooth, feeling like they're drilling into every tooth. It was down my neck, around everywhere for just, I don't know how many, 10, 12 hours before they could get anything on board. But
take it back just to one when Rex talked about most painful is from the man. Why is there not more research?
Yeah.
What percent of every health research dollar is in? What percentage?
Can you say that? You kind of break up a little bit. Can you say that again?
What's the percentage of all the research dollars in healthcare that is invested in pain research?
1%.
1%?
1%. And it's the number one reason that you go to the doctor, right?
Yeah.
And basically, if you look at all the institutes at the National Institute of Health, there is not one for pain. So all the research is all over the different institutes. Yeah. And that's part of the problem.
Yeah. That's staggering. That is 10% would have been shocking.
Yeah, and that's what I mean by sobering, and I don't mean that in any way, I've learned, I'm learning what, RSD and ACPA have or haven't done, and I'm just so surprised that you're not further along. I don't mean that at all. I'm very, but I, having a conversation with the head of CRPS and having us both talk about how is there anyone else that we could go to that would be beyond what we're doing. And of course there's organizations like National Pain, associate there are some other people doing some amazing things, but like you're saying, it's still 1%.
Yeah.
And that's just not okay.
It's basically also, I'm optimistic that we're doing a national meeting in Toronto this month, and we're bringing various researchers from Europe and America together,
Yes.
and we've discovered over the years that CRPS is a heterogeneous disease, that there's different subsets, some that are immune mediators, there's some that are trauma related, there's cold and hot CRPS. So what they've done over the years, that they should take medicine or one intervention and help all these subsets.
Yeah.
So what we're trying to do is bring these people together and say, if we have 5 different subsets, what is the most therapeutic intervention that will help these people? For example, regularly, so they did a trial. Had great results in early CRPS in Italy.
Yeah.
When they brought it to America, a trial accepted everyone. And so not everyone went from one intervention, so the trial failed. So it's almost like you have to take different subsets of CRPS and do an intervention for, and then really build some exclusionary criteria. Excited about that. And what we're going to do is, if we get some good research,
Yeah.
then we're going to go out and try to raise some money.
Well, and as your guys' nonprofit, that's been part of what you guys have done, is take the donations and have been able to use some of that to help with investment efforts. Is that right? Can you talk about that a little bit?
We've done over the years, since 1994, invested about a little over $2 million in various research activities, from trying to get young researchers into the pain field to where we've done a lot of basic research, with research that validated the criteria. Then we did a long-term study that we're analyzing now, over 10 years, what happens, what's the long-term health effects of CRPS. So we're analyzing that now. One study that I'm really excited about is at the clinic. So primary care doctor who's tried adding nitrous oxide to see if that could help with CRPS pain, and also help people get off opiates if they want, that you have to get off them. So that's hopefully will break in a couple months. And if it's positive, then that could be also an intervention in emergency department, right?
Absolutely.
Emergency department now, we're having relief.
Yeah.
The emergency department, I'm going to touch on that,
Yeah.
and I know a lot of you will agree, can be traumatizing in itself. Luckily, for the most part, now sometimes I'll bring this up because it just needs to be brought up. They won't listen to me until Rex comes in the room. And Rex will repeat exactly what I've said. And they're on it in a whole different speed and a whole different respect. But overall, the ER department that I've gone to for years, and it took a lot of visits and hours to come up with a cocktail of things hard enough, or strong enough to hit my pain hard enough. Because once it gets to a certain level, there's nothing you're gonna take at home that's gonna
Yeah.
But then you're sent home, and we're in this. So the ER is and I really hope that we get more hospitals on board with making that, because I was reading a part of that. It was a part of the event, because you've got an event coming up that we registered for, and there was a fellow that worked really hard with the doctors, and they have a plan. They know him. They know he has CRPS, and I think we're kind of getting there. The last 2 visits, they have said, because I have new nerve pain and I also was having seizure-like activity, and they know me well enough that they both visits said, you know, it looks like it's progressing, and so they're learning, and at least, you know, but it's a lot of hard work.
Well, yeah, and you know, I love the fact that there are places, you know, you talk about these millions that have gone on to what you're literally doing with research and things. Of course, not all players are going to be getting into research, right? You know, we're not going to and so they can go to your website at RSDSA.org and find a place to donate. But it's like with us in areas where, you know, we now, if you go to you know, our link tree, if you go into our page there's a number of different ways in which people can donate for us. But, you know, that's part of what we're also trying to do as well, is that, you know, one of the areas that we feel is really lacking is the reaching out. I mean, we would love to travel and do live interviews with people, or to give, instead of giving gifts that are $5 mailings here and there, we'd love to be able to really
you'd be amazed
love
at
on
how
them,
many
you know?
people would accept you into their homes.
Yeah.
In their worst, in their most private setting, and where they've had their worst hours of their life, and they're just happy to have you, you know. And so that's what I really want to get.
Yeah, that's what we're looking forward to, because we are at a point now. So again, you know, not that this is like a formal donation event, but, you know, if you guys are out there, obviously there are people out there that millions of dollars are going in because people want to make a difference in organizations. There are people that are just trying to serve, you know, the American Heart, you know, Association. They get donations for things they're focusing on. So we would love that. And so as if you can support.
And today, as far as if you feel like donating, please go to rsdsa.org, because
our website is rsds.org.
Excuse me.
You.
Okay.
Can I go back for a second to the emergency department?
Yes.
I want to put out to Jeff Blair, who's from Denver, Connecticut. He told me about this special care plan.
Yeah.
He worked with the social worker at the hospital, because they were, each time you go in, you have to tell a story, whatever. And he said, listen, well, so let's talk about what. So when I come in and I can hardly talk, this is the intervention that should be suggested.
Yes.
And he's actually friendly CEO of the hospital now, because he was a tireless advocate for himself. And I find it's really hard to do is to have a premier treating doctor, because once you go to the emergency department, the relationship with strangers.
Yeah.
And too often they have this, especially the doctors now, a very bad view of opiates. You know, and they see them as a medicine of abuse rather than a medicine to help people.
Yeah.
And help people.
Yeah.
So people need to work on that relationship. We also are doing, we'll try together some guidelines for emergency services. Because so often, they're people who first bring you, especially when you're in capacity, to the hospital. Often, you're saying, don't try them, and they touch your arm, know what it is, and you might almost can't see.
Yeah.
And they, you know, and so we're working with some people who have been in the EMS and now in the CS community, so we're looking for to help them.
Yeah.
Lights are on. Behind you.
Oh, I know. It's just saying bandwidth. It's saying your bandwidth is low, but I might be frying our server right now. Or
it's still going, so we're going to
We
still
actually
go.
got a pretty robust stuff here, but we're going to keep going. So
But I just went to our conference week, you know.
Yeah, can you talk about that? Yeah, I had a post about that. That's coming up, you guys. Go ahead and put a plug in there for that.
What we discovered during pandemic, you know, we used to go out and we'd go to Denver. We actually went, so we put together a really good program. for people with assisted caregivers, it would cost 18 to 20,000, because you have to do the bill, the money, and transportation. But the pandemic taught us that we could do it for fairly anything other than buying the platform. Done probably 60 presentations throughout the last 2 years. And so this coming week we're going to do on Monday, Tuesday, various presentations. So that I want to look down there and I'll read it. The first one is a fellow Israeli researcher, and it's going to be 12 Eastern on Monday. We're going to talk about neuroplasticity and digital health. What he is trying to develop is a device that you buy that will help desensitize your the CRPS allodynia.
Wow.
And then that evening we have some people from Abbott and interventional pain people who are going to talk about DRGs. And spinal cord stimulation has good about it. We just clinical practice guidelines, and our lead author talked about the exciting thing he's seen in a while is the DRG, and it's actually has some trials in Europe called the Accuracy. And then Tuesday we have Brian Oak, who's a good friend of RSDSA, and he is going to talk about how I know if I have a case. So often individuals are injured by medical professionals, and how do you know you can bring that to court? And you talk about that. And I have a very interesting that evening too. That's going to be. He's a chef. He has area. And he actually has 2 transplants. He has a kidney transplant and a heart transplant.
Wow.
That's quite a story. And he's going to cook. Going to have people cooking inflammatory meals. And with the kids, he did avocado brownie that was outstanding with honey, and it was just really marvelous.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Wow, you got a good lineup there.
I know.
And for those that are wanting to register for that event, if you're familiar with how to go to our link tree, which is in the bio on all our social media platforms, just right there at the top, we've added 2 links, one of which goes directly to Jim's bio on his website. The other one takes you straight in to the event to register right to it. So of course you can go and talk about how they can also get to that, but just be aware that if that's an easy way for you to register, we've got a link that goes right out to that event that you're talking about. And what day is that again, Jim?
It's actually Monday through Thursday, and only one is during the others are 6 and 8 o'clock.
This upcoming Monday.
Yeah, coming up.
Okay.
What I'm looking forward to, there's also a cardiologist who developed chronic pain, and he basically wrote a book called Bone of Our Scar, and he really talks about pain and how the neuroplasticity, and talks about most doctors are unempathetic. And do you know that the medical profession pain intervention, who is the most unempathetic discipline for pain docs? Give me a guess.
The most the question is what kind of what kind of doctor is the most
empathetic?
Empathetic?
Yeah, can't relate to you.
What, pain doctors?
Anesthesiologist.
Oh.
Wow.
Yeah, and so very interesting. So I really encourage that's just the event on Thursday at 8 o'clock, and he's written really fabulous.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting.
You know what I'll do? Copy the chapters and send it to you guys. It's just extraordinary. And we have one of them about Tracy Quinn. She was an individual diagnosed with CRPS, and after 15 years, discovered that the diagnosis was wrong, and she had ES. I lived on this, and she talked her journey and the mismanagement of her pain, and she's a fabulous young lady, and she's written. It's called Untethered Truth. What they discovered that she had a tethered spinal cord, and she had and they were treating CRPS all these years. And so,
So, An Untethered Truth is the book.
The book, if you're interested to go.
I don't know where I heard. I think it might have been something when I was reading through the event, and then it led me maybe to something else on YouTube. A lot of them, links that you've provided that I've watched, and because, you know, you guys, we've got to stay educated, even if it's hard to hear that there's a lot more work to do. As far as I'm concerned, stay educated and keep putting that information out there. Find another friend, keep reaching out. That's how we're going to get on top of this financially,
Yeah.
research wise, offering up our own, you know, ourselves, so that they can understand. Maybe, you know, I've even talked a couple times to a couple doctors who have been very interested, because mine's started cranial, and
Yeah.
I've always made sure that they know that I'm open to that, to whatever they feel, you know, maybe something safe and new. But
Because
I
they've
forget
learned.
who she was.
Because they've been learning a lot from you. I mean, that,
they
you know, I mean, that's kind of a good attitude to have.
just from my tumors too, they've just been rare. So
You know, when you're a patient of
yeah.
any kind, part of you is just kind of wanting to not feel like the guinea pig or the first one, but at the same time, she's had such a good attitude about
I
recognizing.
easily would do it if it
You know,
helps
recognizing,
others.
okay,
Yeah.
if this is, you know, they're out there, and not to say that she's been a first for every little case, but
No.
but there has certainly been instances where we, and I'm sure that you guys watching can feel that way.
we
I mean,
usually
you're teaching.
get, we haven't seen this.
Yeah, we haven't seen this. Okay, what are we
And
going to do?
at my general doctor, now we laugh. It just is, you know, I remember when we were discussing, do I get the COVID vaccine? Because it was a real concern for me, who has been so injured. And these are lasting injuries. And so he kind of paused and says, man, I wouldn't even have to pause if it wasn't for you. And we just got laughing. He's like, well, if there's gonna be something that happens, it will probably be with you. Sure enough, it blistered, it grew, you know, and they had to keep marking it and watching it. And he just kind of shakes his head. So every time we come in, and he just does whatever he can for me. And there's a genuine love there. And, but also just not knowing what to do. And so sometimes in that space of not knowing what to do with something that's so rough, we kind of prefer humor, I think.
Yeah, at a certain point, try to.
And I
to
think
laugh
humor and laughter and service and love can take you a hell of a long way in this.
Yeah.
It can absolutely, and I think it can even help. I'm going to go this far, because I know that I would have been much worse off had I not had goals and faith and a good attitude for the most part. That it's helped my body keep going.
now the thing we can control are advocates. How we approach things and persevere.
Yeah.
And be kind, because everybody's fighting something.
Yeah, absolutely.
Have you did you go through pain yourself, or do you mind me asking if you have lived with or gone through any?
But I've been 50 years to my wife who has peripheral neuropathy, and it sensitized me to the daily struggle.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
You can even feel her feet,
Yeah.
and that when we're together, she was on my arm.
Yeah.
Which is nice.
Which,
But,
yeah, that's pain in of itself, right?
Yeah.
What you go through, all of your caretakers and loved ones out there,
Yeah.
the children trying to understand how to best
Yeah.
receive from their parents or parent, but also recognize that they have a need to receive
Yeah.
as well, right? So the
So
maturity that
thank
can
you.
come from that.
A big thank you to you caretakers out there and family members
Loved
that are
ones and friends, yeah.
that are sticking it out and making sure that they get what they need and that they feel loved and that they're still of value.
But there's pain there. Yeah, there's pain. There's grief that you can go through, and there's,
of course, yeah.
you know, there's trying to adapt. Yeah.
I forget what I was going. I was going to say that I don't know who it was, but somebody had asked, is EDS, Ehlers-Danlos, linked to CRPS? And her answer was absolutely yes. She said in about maybe 40% of the cases there can be a link. I don't know if that percentage is right, but it kind of just made me think back about when I was younger, like my elbows would kind of go the opposite direction, and so I was able to touch my legs, and we just always thought it was funny, and I just got thinking about it.
Maybe you had a little bit of that.
Yeah, and I if I do, but I was like, I certainly, it was enough for me to think there needs to be more testing done for me. Just because I've had, and I think they mentioned in your fingers, your wrists, your elbows is really where you're going to notice.
Yeah.
Your EDS maybe the most. But just that little comment or that question and her answer made me think, okay, wait a minute. I haven't even thought of that for years.
Yeah, that could be.
But it would always kind of wig my siblings out. So, who knows? It is. I think one of the women that I think is she a scientist? You gave me a link to somebody to watch, and she's a doctor, scientist, maybe, I don't know. She's been a part of really interested in CRPS for I think 6 years. Hopefully you'll know who I'm talking about, Jem. But she says, the more we learn, the more we realize that we don't know. It is extremely complex, and every person, there's so many different variations, and there's so many different levels of pain, and there's so many different types, I think, of pain too.
I like the word I read the other day, and they talked about CRPS being mysterious.
Mysterious. Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah, the nervous system, boy. Yeah.
I'll send pictures of my arms to my family, and because I find it fascinating when it travels down my arms, and for me, there's a real nervy. My neurologist could only say it like this: that you have several layers of nerve pain. Right under the skin, you've got those nerves that are wrapping around your face and your eye, and so Botox was helping to some degree, but then insurance decided that CRPS, they weren't going to do it anymore. But also when I'm burning up, it is exhausting in itself, because you feel like you have, your body's treating it as if you're fighting. So your body's fighting and itself. And I can walk by someone and they can feel my heat. It radiates that much. But sometimes I'll watch my arms, and sometimes they'll completely do their own thing, and other times they'll completely mimic each other, right down to the shape of the fever, right into the fingers. And I just find it fascinating. So I'll take pictures and send it to my family, and I'm an artist at heart, and so we find a little bit of humor in that too. But my brother says only an artist would find that interesting and find the beauty of it, I guess, because I was like, our body's interesting. But yeah, it is. I can't even, hour to hour, I do not know what's next. I don't know what will trigger next. I don't know how long it will go, how hard it will go.
I think that people don't understand that when someone has a good day, and then assume that the next day will be, I'm talking about family members versus,
Yeah.
Yeah.
they want to continue that. I don't realize that if you overage one day, you're going to pay the next day. It's
Yes.
still there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And, we have a video on our website. It's been seen 100,000 times. It's called "The Experience of Having CRPS," and it's fabulous. It really talked about. Keep Ortini from RSDSA interviewed me. And he just said, "I got hit by a truck." He developed CRPS after he was a young kid, and he was hit by a baby.
Yeah.
And one of the family members, Hank Ludington, who is co-president of our organization, he's quoted as saying, "You know, you just know as a caretaker what the next day is going to be, what we're going to do. You really can't plan.
Yeah.
We're all dependent on
Yep.
storm." That's all
Yeah.
There's no.
Yeah, you become grateful for flexibility and adapting and people being gracious towards that because they know you're going to still get things done.
Yeah.
So-
I've missed my. Yeah. I get emotional.
Oh, it's okay.
Our youngest daughter's graduation. I've missed some pretty important events.
Sure.
But
But they never loved by you.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've been really gracious enough to always try to have me on FaceTime, and you're here with us, and that's important, you guys. That's if you're a caretaker or a friend or just a family member, it's not a hard thing to do, to say, if they have a phone and they really want to be a part of something, just connect with them and just let them watch. You don't, like when Rex and the kids do that for me, there's not even a lot of talking. They just let me watch and as if I'm there. And if they can't do that, they load me up with pictures, but there is no, I can't even say ever that, hey, you guys, tonight I feel like it's going to be a good night. It is, and I know all of you know, it's hour to hour, and it just, for myself, my joints are really starting to feel it. They warned me 3 years ago that my bone deterioration is pretty good, and now I'm dealing with teeth issues, and it's hard, especially when you've loved to exercise and you love to, you've really put a lot into your health, and it just
Well, and you guys,
it takes a lot. It takes a lot from you.
Yeah, you guys all want to feel valued and seen. You want to feel important. You want to feel like you matter.
And you certainly are.
And that could maybe tie in here, Jim. Let me know if there's anything else before we get into that. But I know that
Mentioned that there's a really good caregiver group for CRPS on Facebook. Just Google that, you'll see that. And then also a month ago, Leanne Cervini, who was a Canadian psychologist, and she talked about caregiving and about caregiving having to also take care of them.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's important.
What was her
That is
name?
very important.
What was her name again?
Leanne Cervini. She's on our YouTube channel, RSDSA. You'll find.
So you'll find her. Perfect.
Okay.
And that's where you'll find the upload that you're talking about that's been viewed over. Perfect. So
Yeah.
So make sure, just if you can go over there. I've just kind of been trying to load myself with information.
Yeah.
And
Following you guys, donating, checking out your
Yes.
website. You want to talk about.
It's helped me more than anything has so far.
Yeah,
It really has.
You and your organization's just absolutely been incredible, and some know you, some don't. So if it's brand new, you've been looking for people to connect with that are doing stuff. Boy, make sure you're following and engaging for sure. And speaking of engaging, as we have people that are still with us, we've been
Abby.
blessed with TikTok. I know that I'll have to get you on TikTok, boy. You know, the COVID happened. You know, even though you know, we're on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and Pinterest, and YouTube. Boy, TikTok has just got a lot of people that are looking for connection and chronic pain. So we're really blessed to have connected with you guys. And part of what we want to do here, if that's okay for us to start getting into this, because I know that a lot of them want to have that opportunity to kind of engage with not just us, but you as well. But can you guys start listing your questions, the questions that you have for Jim? And my daughter Abby is kind enough where she's gonna you know, read some of these, but we want to give an opportunity for you if there's something that he hasn't answered yet, or that you have a question specifically for Jim, that you can leave that in the comment here, and we'll read that to him, and then give him a little bit of time to talk about that. So go ahead and submit any questions that you've got, or anything that you want to hear from him. And while we're waiting for you guys to kind of get some of those submitted, anything else before we kind of break into the Q&A segment, Jim, that you wanted to talk about that you didn't have an opportunity to share earlier that you want to include?
I just wanted to, if I could show you some, we have a bunch of brochures that are on our website under publications.
Okay.
And we publish a monthly free electronic newsletter. We don't have the money anymore to mail it out to our community, so we do it electronic. But this is a treating CRPS and looking at the therapy. It's really fabulous, and it goes into about everything from the old type of stress loading, scrubbing, mind-body interventions, graded motor imaging, sensitization. It's really fabulous. And mirror box therapy, what people with CRPS should expect from therapy, exercise programs. So people could ask us. Email us at info@rsds.org. We also have a two-sided card. It says, I have CRPS. And basically, it talks about from the first person about what it means to have this. Just a quick thing. It talks about a little bit about CRPS history, and then it goes into here's how you can help us. My pain is real, even though it's something invisible. It may not be apparent in my daily activities. I'm learning various coping mechanisms, get through it, but the chronic pain is always there. I have good and bad days. My pain may even change hourly, and I can't predict how I feel each day. Sometimes it hurts me touching, but please ask. And then it actually has the diagnostic symptoms, and it has the famous smiley thing, which is full of crap.
I don't know how many times I've said I hate 10. Stupid 10.
So while we're waiting for these questions, we got our first one. I'll go there. Abby's gonna read them. If we end up not having a question to call out, I've got some questions I've got plenty of questions, so I'll kind of fill in the space if we're not getting a flood of questions. But let's go ahead and start with our first one here. Abby, do you want to read this to him?
Mm-hmm. Is CRPS on the rare disease list?
Is CRPS on the rare disease list? This is from Shelly Jane, and if you could speak up in the hey Abby, can you read the username when you do that, and then just a little bit more volume so that they can hear you. So this is from Shelly Jane _.
Yeah,
right.
Shelly Jane, is CRPS on the rare disease list?
Rare disease list.
Actually, about a decade ago, the FDA declared that CRPS is a disease, meaning that it has the cut of less than 200,000. Yet, it's really fabulous that it is classified as a rare disease, because pharmaceutical companies have expanded benefits to enter into the rare. So that's wonderful, and that's good. We believe that Will, who's a fabulous researcher out of Vanderbilt, he did a whole study epidemiology of CRPS. He believes, regardless of the rare disease, that there's 50,000 cases a year.
Yeah. I think I remember us kind of touching on that when we were talking before. So there's a belief that there's probably a lot more cases than we realize.
But I'll take it that it's a risk, so hopefully you can encourage pharmaceuticals to enter your space.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you for that. Go ahead and go for the next one.
Yeah. Steph and Ramona said, I'm in my second year of physical therapy. Can you ever have too much physical therapy?
Can you hear her okay?
I can. I think it depends on what happens after you have physical therapy. Do you is it helpful? I mean, we had on our YouTube channel, we had a doctor of therapy do a whole lecture should physical therapy work.
Right.
One of the great physical therapists I from talks about, I really don't need to touch you. I need you to learn how to move. And that's the whole key, I believe, in being more functional is we have to move.
Yep.
And the whole key is so often because if I don't move, I hurt. And then it's nasty.
Yep.
Okay, thank you for that. Go ahead.
Lady Dreamer 12 says, how does one get back into the treatment of CRPS? My health records have lies in them. I have not been treated correctly from the medical community. Let me know if I read that right.
So some bad experiences. People have bad experiences. Maybe some records are inaccurate. They maybe get a little bit turned off by that and, distrust that's out there and different things. What would you recommend for those that are going through that or anything similar to that, where they're starting to find people where that's not the case, but they still don't know what else to do next?
Well, I think it all goes down to, number one, what will your insurance for? Two, and then you have to find a doctor. Dr. Tarthik, who just spoke at Stanford, she said, you have to find a nurse, someone who's interested in this, that is really interested in finding what works for you. Too often people say, let's get them off, let's get them a spinal stimulator. Now you put out that they want people to have procedures because where the money is.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I heard for a couple of years.
Yeah,
They wanted to give me every, and I finally said no. That's the second time I got kicked out. I said no to a procedure. And he said, well, you don't belong here anymore.
Yeah, so just because they're a medical professional doesn't mean that you can't advocate for yourself and kind of what to look for in terms of, is this somebody that I'm feeling some true empathy and compassion for? They want to really find what we have available, whether that's insurance related or talking and listening. If they don't have answers, who they can get you to. Kind of just advocate for yourself and know that you're deserving of continuing to look for someone else. Don't conclude that the experience you had just with one person is going to be the same for everybody you talk with.
I think the best referral is word of mouth. So in social media, who is helping, and hopefully in your area. So often I hear from people at CRPS, and I've heard of these people help them. It's really fabulous to get that word of mouth because that's it's not counterfeit. It's not a health rate. It's right out of someone's mouth.
Yes. So that is so critical. We've got to.
Well, and along with that, you have an opportunity if you do find the right people that you're feeling better about. That are they listening to what you're open to, what you're not? That the person, Lady Dreamer, that left that question, she's like, no spinal stimulation or stimulator, right? So having that consult and having that person find out what it is that you are, interested in and not. There's some good care that can happen among all of our.
I'm gonna say this because I consider him one of my angels, although he didn't find the answer. It was a doctor that was he was just doing a scope, in my intestines and down my throat, and he came in the room, was struck by what he saw, and immediately started asking questions. Now, this is a doctor that has, he's not pain management, he's not a general doctor, he has nothing to, and he just couldn't, because you mentioned, you know, that nerd that cannot let it go, and he could not let it go. And so he ordered every blood test under the sun. He did not give up until he just was like, I'm lost. And now we get to go back to him a few years later and say, I have that diagnosis, so that he knows.
He was part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He really was.
Yeah. Starts with a second opinion, right? You get another second opinion and you start having conversations.
Because he helped me know what I didn't have. And that was a big deal.
Important too that you have to build a team. So one practitioner cannot successfully treat you.
Yeah.
Yes.
The insurance cognitive behavioral therapy is fabulous.
Yeah.
Working with a physical occupational therapist who knows the things, that's important. And also finding that social support. Again, so often people are isolated and they're just defeated. And we, about 5 years ago, we put the word hope in our mission statement, that we wanted to provide education, support, hope. You know, it's what keeps people.
Yeah, that's where it starts. That's the core of what helps saves lives.
Yes.
That's the opposite of suicide, where people are like, "Wait a minute, there are people here trying to help me. We can do this. You know, we can stay here.
I can still hope." You know.
There talks about, listen, how you move toward remission. It's 5% here, 5% there, 5% there.
Yes. I love that.
Yeah.
Slam on the first bat.
Yes. All right. So thank you for that. Hope that answered your question, Lee Dreamer. Go ahead and with the next one, Abby.
Okay. A Bryant 122 says, I have fibromyalgia. Is that who said?
Yeah.
And do you find that some of the treatments for CRPS really works for fibro too?
I do believe that, and I believe I'm not giving that, but there's a great article talking about from John Younger, who was at Shepard and at the University of Alabama, and he wrote about the use of naltrexone, LDN, to fibromyalgia, and then from that research they started using it in CRPS. And no one medicine will help all, but low-dose naltrexone, and we're titrating up to 4 milligrams, it's low side effects, it's expensive, it's compounded, it will not be covered with insurance, but we're talking $100 for 3 months worth of trial.
Yeah, oftentimes, my medications that have been not covered, and usually at a really good pharmacy that works with you well and does compounded medicines, that's, oh goodness, a lot of times a lot cheaper.
Yeah, it's more affordable
than just basic prescriptions.
This is a nerd.
Yeah, exactly. Now,
right.
I was told, because I'm curious, this is just a question from me, because this is what I was told. So I have my cannabis card, and we did everything under the sun, the highest, and it just, my first dose, they said, given your pain and what you've got, we're going to put you on a high dose. Well, that got me high for 8 to 10 hours, and that is not fun. And it's not what you want. But then, so we started slow, and we've gone through creams, gummies, oils, and it just wasn't working. And so Rita, who we love, where I do go in and get ketamine once in a while, I think she had said, a lot of times cannabis doesn't work well with CRPS. Do you have any thoughts on that, or do you know of any research about that? Because for me, it didn't. It didn't do much at all.
In New Jersey, we get it approved for CRPS. I don't keep with cannabis for CRPS. There's so many different strands.
Yeah,
THC.
that's true.
It's really trial and error.
Yeah.
I've not. It's even my wife with her peripheral neuropathy. You know, we spent a lot in California. We're out there, brought it back, and it didn't work. But so it's really trial and error, and it's coming out of your pocket.
That's true. That's a pretty penny. Once you know when you're trying to find and go through it all.
Right solution, yeah.
Abby, you've got another question.
Okay, another question?
Yeah, Stefan Ramona just says, I've done my research and know where my problem is, what has caused my CRPS. How do I get my doctors to listen?
Can you repeat that?
She said, I've done my research and know it has caused my CRPS. How do I get my doctors to listen?
Well, I mean, starting the negative, most doctors don't want to listen. I mean, with the science of the interaction of a patient with his or her doctor, they're probably especially if they're female, you're interrupted within the first 15 seconds when you're taking the work. So I think that basically how a lot of people will come in with their question. They might usually do a pain diary. This is what I've been experiencing since our last appointment. Now take photos, those type of things. Too often that when you go in to see a physician, your symptoms or your signs are not happening, you know, and so they can't tell. So it's sort of like, and it's tough because you have to find the right doctor. You have to find one that has a great
That's what I was going to say. I've had to be willing to walk away from a handful of doctors, and when the first one that validated, and they were actually saying, we really, really believe this is CRPS. Well, the other one did, but because I didn't want another procedure, he kind of said, we don't. But anyway, I went to one that was much, much more compassionate, absolutely believed it, seen it, was like, this is, you know, one of the first visits, it was funny because he says, can I try something? And he sticks a needle between my eyeball and my brow bone.
Right in front of me.
Yeah, and that's where all that scar tissue is mixed in with the nerves. And he was struggling, shaking to get it past the scar tissue, and it sounded like breaking
Crunchy,
glass
nice, crispy
in my head. And so that's why I am very, very firm with do not touch, do not, because now I have the really cold hot thing where the cold, if you touch me anywhere it's hot, it feels like ice burn. So that can be very painful to my nerves too. But there's not been one doctor, even if they've made a mistake, and I'm now living with it, when they've shown compassion and they've said, let's try this together, do I have your permission? There are doctors out there that are willing to sit with you and listen to you and ask your permission if they can do something.
Yeah, there's a place for that, for sure.
Yeah, and every one of those, even if there's been something that's gone wrong, they have just been my circle of angels, just because it means the world when someone validates, you know.
Yeah. Research has shown that when a doctor apologizes, that it reduces lawsuits.
Yeah.
You know, hello, rather than I think it's also that you just have to guide the people on social media. Ask us, we'll put it on our social media.
There you go. Yeah.
The provider information we could send for your particulars. There are face-to-face support groups that we could refer to. But you just really have to. I think you're as a CEO of your medical team, you hire and fire.
Yep.
Yeah. And
there will be doctors that this is a scary diagnosis to them. One of them, he did nerve ablation because he thought it was just migraines. And he just was so excited. He genuinely wanted to help me. There was a very, very sincere compassion. And he just was like, we have 100% rate, and Rex told him, this is, just want you to know, hi, meet Nell. So we kind of warned him.
Guess will be your 1%.
Yeah. So, because my adrenals have completely zeroed out during a surgery, he had to be careful with any anesthesia he was giving me. So the left side, they gave a little too much, struggled waking up a little bit. And the right side, the next day, I woke up in the middle of it, and, pain's pain. So I just laid there real still, and but that damaged something so horrendously that he saw me for the next few weeks, and I was just shaking in tears, like, something's wrong. We kept saying something's wrong. And he left. He left his employees. He left his...
We don't know what happened.
Even his employees didn't know what to tell us. And I think it can get really scary for them when something goes wrong, and our bodies can view the teeniest thing as something wrong. And so you have to be compassionate towards them as well.
Yeah.
I say that basically that show me the evidence that this has been tried in CRPS and what's the efficacy.
Yes.
So I don't know if everyone's familiar with the website PubMed, PUBME.
Okay.
And it's a library. So you can search and you say nerve ablation for CRPS. Sometimes you get a free access to the whole article, but you'll get at least the abstract unless it's in German or Dutch. But that's it. You can do that.
PubMed.com?
Yeah, just PubMed.
PubMed.
But just PubMed will get you to it.
Okay.
I do it all the time, and I get the access. We have probably hundreds of research journal articles on our website under the tab Search Medical. And it's really interesting.
Yeah.
One of the this coming week is an Australian nurse at CRPS, and she did a study on patients described their lived experience of bad live with complex recurrent syndrome. She talks about she has healthcare and people syndrome, and they talk about what can you learn from each other. What do you expect from your doctor? I think it's going to be a fabulous book.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and I hope that was an opportunity for us to kind of talk about, basically, to advocate for yourself and to not be afraid to keep working with the people out there.
Some of you didn't hear, because this is I haven't said it quite like that, and I know that that's what I'm going to do from now on. Show me where this is, number one, safe, and number two, has really worked in CRPS cases. Now, my current pain management, I haven't been to them for a while because they not only tried everything they could, I, again, scared the life out of him. He even said, I won't touch you for quite a while. That was the one that really kind of hit that ganglion nerve bundle. But they still are very good to me. And they, there's this, for me, complexity, because they talked about the mirror therapy. They just sit there and they're like, we don't know what to do because it starts in the left side of your head, and I think, when I was talking to you, Jim, I was saying, I know exactly what nerves started it, because they'll actually, so I've had 3 tumors removed, and it's been very difficult to get around all those nerves and then all the scar tissue, and it will actually swell up, and it's like a map. It goes right into my temple, from my eye to temple, and then it just spreads, and then it will go around the head. It just does different things at different times, but it will just trigger nerves, fever, pain, my joints, everything. Even your digestive system, to the point where you get so sick that you feel like I have, I'll bring this up for those of you that don't want to talk about that part of it, because it's you never know where in all of our bodies it can hit in different places, from what I understand.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I get so sick, and it's usually when something spikes my adrenals. If there's anything,
Stressful,
the littlest thing
or
can
something.
feel like a truck's coming at me and it's life or death. That's just how my body reacts. And so I keep oxygen in the bathroom.
Help you.
Just a kind of can of oxygen that hikers use, so that I can make sure that I'm taking deep breaths. I can try to calm down, because that pain is a whole nother level.
Just to kind of get
Yeah.
through it, right? Just kind of try to calm yourself
Yeah.
as much as you can. And
Yeah, but I love that, kind of that, going back to advocating for yourself. Talk to me about what you know about CRPS, and have you done this on anyone else with CRPS? And,
Now, have you looked into scalp acupuncture? Might scare you because that's where your CRPS is.
no, I need to get, I think you recommended someone.
There's a fellow in Albuquerque, Jason Ho, H-A-O, and he is,
Yep.
well, again, he talks about cure rate, 80%.
Mm-hmm.
And talk, every time we treat someone with CRPS, he gets them to quit. Like, well, this is where I was, this is where I am now. And the whole key is that it's 150.
Yeah.
And so again, if you're on disability, and that's a mountain to climb. But just people know that RSDSA over the years has given almost $140,000 in state system grants.
Wow.
So a lot of times, help people from being homeless. We pay the emergency a grant of
absolutely.
$500.
yeah,
Now that show people's income for diagnosis, improves with money, and within days, organization will say yes or no, and generally, like 95% of the time, we say yes.
Yeah. That's incredible.
Yeah,
I honestly would be willing to try. My only thing is I get really nervous about, because I've gone off of everything, like I said, gone into a hospital to properly do it, and then after that I've just done it by what doctors have, the instructions they gave me. So I've gone off of everything a few times now. I get nervous, like, okay, there's a genuine, it's beyond anxiety. It's a panic
Trauma.
attack.
Well, it's a
that,
PTSD
like, if
thing,
but if the pain, okay, I got my baseline now, and the pain's as real as probably worse. It gets worse for me. Probably the past 6 years, it's just progressively gotten worse, because I think we found it really late. They were confused, I think, by the cranial part of it.
the rarity of it. Yeah.
And so,
every help happens in a limb. That's what they all say.
yeah. Well, it's in now, because it went down one arm, then another arm, and it took months to do that, and now it's in both hands. And
But
now it's in my spine.
Is your kennel paid for?
No, we pay for that.
we found a place in Utah that's reasonably affordable. So but
Very compared to some
it's
other
not
states.
like 3,000 to 5,000.
No.
You've got some pretty high priced stuff out there.
Well, they get me in quick too. They're very good about that. I think where we're struggling is they want to hit it real hard, and I do too. And they slowly went up. I don't want anyone to think that that's smart, right? That's not how you do it. It starts out slow. And we've had to go several times to get to the point where I'm at. But my nerves get very, very angry when it's done. And then I'm just in where it hurts. It really hurts to breathe, because breathing makes things move, and moving, aggravates those nerves some more, and it hurts to blink. It hurts, it just goes. So we're trying to figure out. I think we'll do a couple more and then have a better idea.
Have you, again, I don't want to give medical advice, but have you looked at Menda or Memento? Are you familiar with that? It's an NMDA antagonist like ketamine. It's a medicine that they use to treat Alzheimer's.
Okay.
And they discovered that they did a gold study that it helped people with CRPS. Again, not covered by insurance.
Right.
I'll send you something.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, see, I feel like I'm someone that's pretty open. Yeah. If I can walk into a hospital where there's addicts and fit right in, and just, I'm pretty open to trying things. I know for myself, I'm not saying this about anyone else. I know for myself that there's some degree that is attached to trauma. I think I've had enough trauma that there's attachment to that, and ketamine has helped with that. It does not. One thing, if you're considering it, first of all, make sure you do it slowly and carefully, but also know that you're most likely going to have some emotional, if you've got some deep emotional things you've tried covering up, that'll do it for you.
Because that comes out, because it's something that helps with depression as well, but that it helps.
Yeah. I knew that before ketamine, but I could not believe the things that I did not remember until I went through ketamine.
Right?
Absolutely. Yeah. All trauma based was coming up, and it was coming up, some severe. And I knew that was, so I think some people get a little defensive maybe when they, and by no means, and I'll say this just myself, because I remember the first time someone mentioned, well, maybe, you could really use a good therapist or psychologist or psychiatrist, and I remember thinking, well, that has nothing to do with this. For me, yes, it does. I don't know to what degree, but it's not, when someone's suggesting it, if your doctor suggests it, they're not dismissing you. They're genuinely trying to, I think, offer a whole package. There's lots of facets to it and lots of angles, so.
Now, I think it's important that when you look for a psychologist or therapist, he or she has helped people with chronic pain.
Yes.
And there are psychological tools that they can teach you.
Yeah.
To learn you to take some of the edge off of it. I think that's really important. Always go by the maxim that John Lennon once said: "Whatever gets you through the night." That's it.
I think that's how my parents feel at this point. Their poor hearts are just broken, and they're just, girl, whatever you got to do.
They went to Mexico and they went to Germany for high-ketamine comas, and so often what happened was it worked, and they came back and they stubbed their toe. Came back.
Wow.
Just the
jeez.
The serious syndrome.
It's
I was trying to find the name of the organization in Utah. Do you remember
Is that recorded?
So the location, Rita and her team. Her name is Rita. She's the owner.
Restorative.
Restorative Health and ketamine. So
they do much more than ketamine.
Yeah. So Restorative Health in Utah. If you're in the Utah or the surrounding area.
Yeah, a lot of people fly in because the prices are so much lower.
So if you're wanting to, try a safe way that you haven't, that could be budgeted out or whatever, and whether it's CRPS or depression related or whatever else, I'd highly recommend to make a note of them and look into that.
I think she even got her education. She grew up in Japan, got her education there. Tall blonde, she'll throw you off completely.
Yes.
The first thing I heard was she grew up in Japan, but her and her partner are both amazing. They're very careful. They pick up that phone. We've always gotten a call back within hours.
And it just goes in line with what you're saying, and then we'll take the next question. We all wish, I think, that we'd live in a world where something's wrong and you go to one person and they can just fix it. And, you got to build that team, right? And there's a piece of it. And it's always kind of hard to answer the question of how things are going, or if you've been able to get the kind of care, because, maybe her ketamine treatment has been able to satisfy a certain percentage of what's helping her. And then another part of it's this, and some of it's maybe still lacking because it just doesn't exist.
Or even the type of ketamine, because there's people that take ketamine at home, very small, much more small doses, but some people.
But just trying to
in the mouth, some people nasal. It just
try to build your own team. There's so
many
right?
things. Yeah, there's just. But I can personally say, and I really, for those of you that are just being diagnosed or just experiencing symptoms of CRPS, I hate to say it, but hang in there, because a lot of it, for me anyway, they'll need to see that you've tried, that you've been willing.
Yeah, that you put in some effort. Yeah.
So I guess that's what, 20 years, my first tumor was, how old are you, Abs? 20? 21? Yeah, Abby was a baby, so three really, really rare tumors. And through those years, so 20 years, they can look back and say, there's not one thing, there's one procedure that I've rejected because I felt strongly about, and I started to understand my body more and my diagnosis more. So, but other than that, they can look at medications, doing your
due diligence, right?
Shots, everything. Yeah, you can't walk in and just say, I'm in pain and I want pain meds. So be willing to have an open mind, I guess.
Well,
that's hard.
It was an amazing question, and it covers, I hope that we kind of covered, a lot of the facets of really what kind of people I think are wondering about when they find themselves in that situation where they're trying to get better care, but they're not quite sure of who or what, are the next steps to do that. So hopefully that helps you out for who gave that question. Abby, do you want to go ahead and go?
There's one more.
Just one more question. Okay, go ahead with that.
Hopefully we're not keeping you too long.
Yeah, we're going to try to wrap up, Jim. We know you're busy, so
Thanks so
Yeah.
It's honestly, I told Rex, I'm like, if you guys knew who you had here now.
Yeah.
But I love that this will be out there for them, along with yours.
In fact, when we were kind of advertising it, we got a lot of that. All right, I'm not going to be able to make it, and then I let them know the video is going to be there.
Yeah.
So there's going to be opportunity to really be able to spend some time with us with you as well. So go ahead with that.
I can't find it, but I'm pretty sure I remember it.
Okay.
But Lady Dreamer 12 just asked if a person with CRPS can go into permanent remission.
I would say permanent remission, but I would say remission. That basically the statistics, there's been not great epidemiological studies about CRPS, but the people in the UK maintain to believe that up to 60 to 70% of people with CRPS get better and become much more functional and go on with their lives. This is 30% of people who are struggling.
Yeah.
But definitely you can go into remission. That doesn't mean you can't relapse, but whatever has helped you prior will probably you again.
Yes.
So I would say that there's a lot of out there. There's a lot of people trying hard for. I don't will ever be a cure, but God bless us, there has to be better treatment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just so you know, I plan on the healing, I don't know what it's called, the healing center here in Utah, the St. George area.
Oh.
I will be going next July. So.
Oh yeah, there's a facility in St. George. It's kind of the complete, total, like a. You know,
Yeah.
What was that?
Is that Reclovia?
No, it was. Shoot.
You know, my
Right off the top
my
of my
brain's
head.
up there on that stand, right? I
It's
can't
got it
get to
all
my
up,
brain.
yeah.
It's it's. I'd have
They're
to.
right on the edge of St. George, Utah, and it was. You were first thinking of the one in Idaho, and then you sent the link of that one, and the owner of that called us back.
Oh yeah,
and
that's
so
what
we're
led to
gonna,
that. That's what
for
led to
sure.
that. Your information that you shared with
Yeah.
us helped lead to a facility down in St. George.
Yeah.
So
So I'll be going because it's a 3-week.
yeah, and it's not
21
covered by
day.
insurance, and it can get pricey. So if if it's something that you're feeling, if you're at a place like with Nell, where you feel like that you've just tried everything, and it's like, okay, I've got a decent quality of life in this way. Let's kind of you figure out what your new norm
Well, I
is,
also really, really
but
want
you
to
have
be
something to
able.
look forward to. Yeah,
Yeah, because we have such an open platform. I want to be able to do anything I can so that I can come back and say, hey, this is really, really worth making more available to people, whether that is grants or it is little, maybe paying for one person a year. I don't know. I'd love it. I'd love for us to get millions coming towards this, but.
Well, and it's not a Spiro clinic, so we had a comment, Stephen Ramona, about Spiro clinic or
It's not.
something like that.
We reached out to them and that didn't work out. So.
And I want to be careful because I don't want to put you on the spot with what your opinion is with Spiro clinic, but I know that they claim that people that go and that they work with them and for the most part they kind of help their pain kind of
100%.
Go away, and that kind of ties in the remission that you're talking about. I think everybody, including them, I'll even say, need to be careful to just kind of put so many generalizations right out there in terms of, hey, you come on board with us and something's guaranteed, right? Your pain is going to just be gone. So do you have any comments about that?
Yeah, I have heard people who have been immensely helped, and I've heard from people who have not been helped. It's a leap of faith, and it's also it's an incredible financial investment. And basically what it's all about that organization, that clinic, is they treat the whole person, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And when they really try hard and whatever, but some people, for whatever reasons, don't. But some people do. I mean, we see her videos all the time of her laying it out,
Yeah.
I think my first red flag, because it's just been said to me so much, is guaranteed and 100%. That's just, yeah.
Well, you bring a good point. I mean, it's just like anything else in life. You try to get information, make informed decisions. Sometimes you make mistakes. You try to correct them. But so much of it is a necessity to have that hope and making decisions sometimes off, faith and trust and, doing your due diligence. So it kind of takes all those things into account. And it may end up being that your story when you pursue a Spiro clinic or a place down in St. George or whomever.
Yeah, because we're not saying they're not amazing.
Absolutely.
They are doing amazing
they are
work.
part of what's making a tremendous impact with this scenario that we're all in.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that there's something to be said about, look for those cases where it may not have been, you're still part of the community. We still love you. Yeah, we don't want to give up on you, right? If you had a bad experience with someone, don't feel like you got to just give up and check out because you're just outside of society. You know, there's nothing for you, you know.
Well, what Mark Twain said, there's only two things scary in life are death and taxes.
Yeah. Oh, my word. Yeah, so here we go, guys.
Yeah, there's
Trudging through.
You've been doing virtual talks all through that. It's been fabulous. I love them.
Yeah.
He went through the bullshit life. He was great. You know? I love him.
Yeah.
Thank you for bringing up your son, because that really touched me.
Yeah.
And that really, because we get on here and we talk about all types of pain and how that can push us away from each other and how that can bring us together. And we've talked about, I personally don't like when, and I get the frustration, you know, we're struggling getting our meds because of addicts, and addicts have pain too, or they wouldn't be one. So, but I love that, that you took such like unimaginable pain and that you've made it such a beautiful, beautiful blessing for all of us.
Well, thank you. You know what's interesting too now is that once a year in our church, they ask people who have lost a child to come up and light a candle and remember.
Right.
And so, and you wouldn't think how many people have lost a child. And you might by for years until that one day, and you look around, and you know, it's something that you never envisioned that you could survive.
Well, and that comes.
I have to agree.
Yeah.
I'm looking at my two daughters now, and we have a son, and
man, it's just
I cannot envision myself surviving. I can't.
That's why I love it, and the way I kind of categorize that part is it's our relationship with pain. I mean, you know, you could be trying to numb your pain, you know, abusing, you know, substances. You could, you know, get separated, you know, suicide, not wanting to look at things, denial, not wanting to talk about it, face it, avoiding people that are reminding you of things. I mean, all these things have to do with our relationship with pain, and even among the best among us, I think we still have room where we can improve that relationship.
I'll give you the solution right now. Is everybody hearing me on every live? The solution.
You have drums.
I need them, because this is it'll never fail you, and it will always help you heal in ways that you can't imagine, always help you get up the next day and start again. And that is love and service. And that's why we're named Spoonful of Sugar. That one spoon that you have left, make sure it's full of sugar and that you're serving. I don't care how, and I don't even care if it's serving yourself, being kind to yourself that day. Those two things, that's what it's all about, and that's how we're going to get through this.
My mantra is to serve is to be served. My kids get so tired of that. It's so true. You know,
It's
put
that.
on this to help each other, not divide us.
Yes.
You know,
it's that beautiful, unending miracle.
I have a bumper sticker that some people hate or love, but it says, "God bless the whole world, no exceptions."
There you go. I was like, I'm probably gonna love this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I love that you said that
For sure.
that you can. It doesn't matter what you're going through. You can always do something to serve.
Yes.
You could give someone a smile. You could maybe you can't even interact with them, and you can just move your hand and you let somebody know, I am in one little compression. I am grateful for everything you've done in my life. Until the day you are no longer in your body, there is always something that you can.
I'll tell you a couple of times, because I always, and I'll share this really personal thing. It's not so personal. I think I've talked about it before, but I guess it's uncomfortable for us, right? As humans, every single day of my life, I have to go through the guilt, and then you go through a little bit of anger, and it is every day. And I'm someone who has a lot of faith in my Maker and a lot of faith, and I even have told Rex for years, I don't need the answers from him. I trust enough. And I have to go through those things, and even in moments and especially I think in moments when you're doubting yourself, or you're doubting the world, or you're doubting whether you matter, in my worst pain, and it's even hard for me to see sometimes, because especially when my eyes are in pain, my sight's getting worse and worse, but I can still find someone that was on my mind that day and just say, I love you, or I'm thinking of you. That simple. And sometimes I've only been able to do that for one person, although I'd love to do it for thousands of you. Yeah. But if you just don't stop loving, forgiving, and serving, and know that people are working hard behind the scenes
that you do not always see,
and
that you do not always know about.
No.
Sometimes that could just be, we're not in TikTok yet, Jim.
And how gracious.
We're gonna get you there, my friend.
Well, we're trying to get to YouTube, so
yeah, there you go. Yeah, we're
YouTube is actually where my heart was for years. I found a lot of dear friends that got me through the hardest times. So,
but yeah, I really hope that people
TikTok
that are on the live and have been watching this, that you just feel uplifted. If you haven't seen Jim or known about RSDSA, if you haven't thought about or learned about the many amazing souls that are actively trying to reach back out to you, that are aware, that are mindfully aware of your suffering. They have empathy, they have experiences, whatever those things are in their own life, that has helped develop true compassion.
Yeah.
And they get that we need to give grace to each other during all of this.
And I'll say to some of you, because I've noticed this recently, the chronic pain community can kind of attack. We kind of implode sometimes when we attack each other, and we start comparing pain, and we start comparing.
Gotta be careful.
Don't talk to me about that.
Human nature, right?
Knock it off. Don't do it.
My
Stop
pain's better
it.
than
It's ridiculous.
more than yours, or this.
But also a new thing that I've just, and I don't know if it's just something that's gonna kind of trend a little bit. I don't know why. I've seen a few, but people getting on and saying, hey, I came on here because I thought I would have support, and I have pain, and none of you, I've got friends, but not enough of you comment. Don't forget that probably those that are following you really care, and they may not be able to comment. I mean, Rex and I have a decent following on TikTok, and we don't get a ton of comments. We know that most of our followers are in serious chronic pain. You've got to realize that they're loving you, and they are your friend. They're watching you, and they may not be able to make a comment. That has nothing to do with how much you're loved.
Yeah, we can help and support each other. Doesn't mean we're gonna always fix or provide every need, right?
And I'm worried about that, because I don't want any of you to just
feel like that means you don't
I'm not
care.
worth it, and I'm going off.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, that doesn't mean that somebody doesn't care, or they're not there for you. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's it.
Well, I think we need to.
You've all been blessed.
Wrap up. Anything else before we? Anything else that you just wanted to share? Just kind of in closing. Any advice?
Not advice. I would really like to just put our contact information out there.
Yes.
RSDS.org. My personal email is info@rsds.org. And I can't help everyone, but I try each time. And I'd love to
Yes, he
reach out
does.
to us. The saddest thing with my work with RSDSA is when I realized someone never heard of us, and we probably could have helped them if they had. So we're here to help, here to hold their hand, and let's get some more freaking research money into
More money,
Man.
which means more of you reaching out to anyone that you know that has this diagnosis or that may be going through their diagnosis.
Absolutely.
We need the traffic so that we can get the attention of some people so that we can get more funds.
Yeah,
So,
what an honor
help us out.
to have met you. What an
Yeah,
honor it
you're
is
such
to
a
maybe be
blessing.
part of helping with any of those connections. You know, we hope that you get even more success and support.
It will happen.
Yeah.
It will.
Well, listen,
All right,
thank
guys.
you so much. All right, keep in touch, right?
Thank
Rex,
you.
I'm gonna email you with about the stealth acupuncture in the Namenda.
Okay.
And we're gonna email back your cell phone.
I will. You got it, my friend.
I love it.
Which means I'm gonna have yours. So look out.
And I love that he's in trouble and I'm not.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, love you.
We'll have to do this again, Jim. We'll be
Yes,
in touch.
absolutely.
Thank you so much, everybody, for joining.